Hello, everybody. My name is Drew Dosek, and welcome to Trading the Close. Today, I want to start out by enlightening you all. We have Investor Empowerment Day on June 23rd. Join us on our webpage. We're going to be doing a lot of different shows, trading live, and then also providing some great specials and promos. All right, so into the market today. Today, we had the markets just kind of float up. We had intraday selling, and then they immediately rebounded and propelled higher. That was off the back of the news that apparently China tariff deal talks are going well, and we should have potentially some development later tonight into the morning tomorrow. Now, also keep in mind, we've got inflation data that will be released tomorrow morning, core inflation at 8:30 a.m., which could be market mover. So keep your head aware for that tomorrow morning for potential volatility. So let's jump right into some of the data you see here on the market summary page. We've got the Dow Jones up 0.24%, NASDAQ up 0.54%, S&P 500 up 0.5%, U.S. oil retreating a little bit, but mainly chopping sideways. We'll take a look at that chart later. Gold's hanging in there, having somewhat of a flat day, up 0.11%, and Bitcoin is retreating ever so slightly after hitting over 110,000 overnight. So fantastic stuff there on the crypto space. All right, into the heat map we go. And you see here, we've got a lot of green that's dominating the screen. Thus, one would expect on a slightly positive day in the markets. We see Tesla over here, though. Nice push on that stock of 5.5%. ExxonMobil's doing well, up 2.25%. Eli Lilly up 4.36%. P&G's flat. Philip Morris is down just a little bit, but we have just basically a moderate day. Over here, we see the mega cap stocks, Google up 1.43%, Meta up 1.2%, and NVIDIA and Apple all up, but just under 1%. Into the SPY, so the S&P 500, and excuse me, this chart is the SPX. We see this just general float and push above this trend line. That's one thing I'm keeping my eyes on for trading action over the next couple days. Notice how when last time we got above this declining yellow trend line, we poked above just for 4 trading days and then sold off sharply lower. Are we going to create a similar pattern on this attempt to break above? Unsure, but here's the first day we're poking above. If I direct your attention down to the bottom of the RSI, you can see we're starting to have some divergence occur right here on the charts. We have a lower high here, a higher high, but then we have a lower high here where price is making higher highs. So that could be foreshadowing some downside in the near term. But if I go back over to the weekly chart and flip that RSI back up, you see we still can move higher on the charts without being too extended on the weekly time frame, even with this monumental move up. So it's quite remarkable. We still can move higher, but it's just we're getting towards the last stages of this move up. We need to have more consolidation, if not some sort of pullback. Pullback down to 5,800 would be the support level that I'm watching in the near term. Into the Qs. Qs here getting so very close to all-time highs. Resistance is going to be at 540.81. You can tell another good push in that diagonal fashion of this move up. These typically stall out. So I'll be watching, and will probably be a lot of sellers here at double top, which would likely push price back down. Major support, long way lower down here at 493.46. Into the SMH. Now, this is really the winner of the day. Much like yesterday, we've already gotten to the area where we had a major sell-off starting in February from SMH. Now we're pushing above that area. Unlike in the Qs, we're not pushing above that spot, nor in the S&P 500. We're not pushing above that spot. So I kind of got a little bit of mixed signals here because, guys, the semis lead the way. When the semis are running strong and are positive, it's usually a leading indicator for the markets. And I see here with this chart, the stock just, or the SMH just keeps pushing higher. It's truly incredible. Will this stall out, especially now that we're in bull trap territory with the S&P 500? So we'll bring you back into the SMH. We see here, though, the next resistance is going to be this pivot high right here at 269.67, support area down here at 246.54 if we have any sort of correction potentially off of that inflation news. Into the IWM is creating a doji candle today right on the area of major resistance at 214.38. So we're going to go ahead and take that resistance area away since that's already been hit. Then the support area, should we have a pullback for a buying opportunity to go long on some of the small cap stocks, is at 209.53, a little before this declining trend line. This is more of an aggressive level that also corresponds with this chop as well as that chop right there. That should be a good zone for the first buy. Now, keep in mind, that is not a conservative level. Conservative level will be down here on this declining trend line right around 203. Into Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, as you see, and I mentioned earlier, we did push up over $110,000 in trading. And then since we have come right back down, but mainly we're just chopping sideways for now. We've got one candle. We need more candles of digestion and consolidation at this level. And then we'll be looking at the next areas of resistance, which aren't that far away. One on this inclining trend line at $112,000, followed by the top end of this parallel around $117,000. I still think now we're above on the 50% area of the parallel, but I still do think, should we poke beneath that 50% area, we're likely going to be tagging the bottom end of this parallel just under 100,000 on Bitcoin. Into gold, you can see here, gold has is basically trading kind of in the middle of no man's land, but there's slightly bullish sentiment, and I'll explain why. Notice here, we've got an inverse head and shoulders pattern on the chart, with the top end of this parallel being the neckline of that pattern. Should this pattern play out, we're going to knock out all-time highs and move up to $3,600 on the charts. You can see that displayed right there. But one thing that I am a little hesitant about, we have not confirmed above this trend line. So while this pattern has triggered, we haven't made a confirming move to further solidify the probabilities of a move up higher to 36.21. I want to remind you too, we've got a weekly topping tail and a daily topping tail on gold. So there still will be a lot of sellers, even if we confirm above this consolidation and push higher up to the all-time highs at 3,500 bucks. Into silver, silver's kind of just consolidating, chopping sideways, and good for it as it needs to do so. Good, huge move on silver. Still have a targeted major move at 38.97. Any pullback down to this trend line at 34.86 would be a good buying opportunity to go long. Now, I did have a comment the other day to cover platinum. And I agree, platinum has had monumental push over the last several trading days. If I zoom in here on the daily chart, you can see that too. We had just a few days of consolidation, a little bit of a pullback, and notice the pattern that happens on these guys. We have a move up, bull flag pattern, even with it coming down slightly, and then a rocket ship up. Now, today and yesterday, platinum is running into resistance. And I'm gonna have to go back to a larger time frame to really display that to you all. So you can see that here created from a pivot back in July of 2014, connected with another pivot over in February of 2021. Both of those pivots created this trend line that price is running into today and yesterday. So, and you also notice too, this is it's not an evenly spaced inverse head and shoulders, but it still would qualify with one. I would rather see an equal size shoulder over here on this side, which we don't have, but still it's a left shoulder, a head, and then a right shoulder. And if this does trigger and play out, we're talking about a measured move on platinum all the way up to over $2,000 right here at $2,005. Now, we do have resistance along the way. Should we break above this trend line that we're currently at, first resistance that I see is going to be at 1397 on the charts. Into U.S. oil. U.S. oil, as I mentioned, we did confirm above this declining trend line right here and above this inverse head and shoulders pattern on the chart with this neckline presented by this shorter declining trend line. So all the while, if we still get a pullback in oil, this would be the buying zone, the buying area right around $63.70, all the way down to the trend lines just under $63 for a move back up to 68.69, completing the measured move from this pattern that's displayed on the chart. Into nat gas. Nat gas has fallen today, and it continues to break down under this wedge. First support area that I'm targeting is $3.38, followed by $3.13. Into the 10-year yield. The 10-year yield still is struggling right here at this declining trend line. You see yesterday we butted up against the price action. Today we retreated a little bit too, and the markets did push a little higher. The markets aren't concerned with the 10-year yield where price is right now. And we'll see when Jerome Powell with the FOMC later on, if we have any updates about future rate cuts coming to the United States later this year. Into CASY. Now, CASY General Stores is one stock that I've really kind of scratched my head on over the last couple of years when analyzing stocks. Now, into the data today, we've got a beautiful report for earnings that occurred yesterday after hours. They, as you see here, earnings per share beat by 35% and revenue increased by 1.68%. In response, look at the big, huge propulsion move on this stock. So we've now pushed higher above this trend line, which I tend to believe, guys, whenever I see stocks like this with this huge move and then just this general incline move up, this is all screaming to me that this is some sort of blow off top that's occurring. And another reason I'm going to tell you why, this move up from this pivot on April of 2025 all the way up, all of this can be considered one giant bull flag. And look, the measured move from this bull flag has already been tagged today at 509.53. We basically kissed that area. So with that area basically being hit and price retreating now back to the top end of this trend line, I think any move up could be a good shorting opportunity for price to move back down into support at 456 and then further a more aggressive level at 440 on the charts. Now, watching on Intel, Intel had a fantastic day today. You can see it moved up 7.95%. And doing so, it's now broken this declining trend line. Great first step for Intel. Now, tomorrow and later trading days, we need to see a confirm of above this current candle. We need to see trading action up above that area. If that happens, this declining trend line would be a buying opportunity for the first resistance level at 23.77. And then the next one will be gap fill, as you see up here by this one candle, currently right around $26 on the chart. Intel has a lot of room to run once it gets its act together and starts becoming more profitable in the semiconductor space. Another stock that did have some big movements today was SJM, the Smucker company. So we see here it had a mixed bag of earnings. It beat on earnings per share, but then it missed on revenue. And they reported first thing this morning. And look at how the price action responded. We had a straight down move on the price today, where there was a minor bounce up that we did capture some gains on a day trade, albeit minor, but it was still a nice trade that we made. And where I got that information for this sort of trade, if I scroll back on the charts, you can see on this weekly time frame, there was a pivot low in February of 2014, strung over to the next major pivots, and then price went straight down into that area today. In addition, you see there's a declining trend line, creating a cradle of support right here in this area. If I zoom into the 10-minute chart, you can see how price pierced that area and bounced right back up. That's the power of technical analysis. It's amazing how these levels can work over and over. And I also want to highlight too, this was a sleeper hold setup. This whole pattern with the support areas, with the trend lines, the time counts, what's going on here at the bottom of the chart, all of that was telling me we could be seeing about a 1 to 3% move up. And that's exactly what happened. 2.44% move up on the charts. This is predictable, guys. Learn these patterns and capitalize on them in the future. Do yourself a favor, get educated, and understand how the flow of charts work. All right, so if Smucker, SJM, continues to sell off down through all of this support area, the next major area of support will be 83.36. One thing they did say, they did note that they will be starting to absorb increased tariff costs instead of passing some of those on to the consumer. This is going to hurt revenue. This is going to hurt margins for SJM. So I can still see price, even though this area of support is very solid, I can see price coming down to 83.36 and then getting a bounce back up roughly to the $100 area. Into Tesla. Tesla pushed up over 5% today, and all of this negative sentiment that was right here has somewhat alleviated, pushing price back up on the charts. Next area of resistance is going to be this declining trend line that we poked above just for 4 trading days, much like that bull trap that occurred on the SPX chart. That resistance area is going to be $345 on the chart. Next up, Ethereum. Guys, this cryptocurrency really has the strength to push higher. And what I'm saying is that look at what's occurred today. We've got this declining trend line right here that highlights the neckline of an inverse head and shoulders pattern. Now, today we have pushed above that neckline. We have not confirmed. We'll see in the coming trading days if we confirm. But if we do, that now opens the door for a measured move all the way up here to $4,100 on Ethereum. Any pullbacks on Ethereum, should we confirm, would be buying opportunities as long as price action stays above this trend line. Like, I would still be happy, even if we didn't confirm and pulled back lower, I'm still going to be buying in this range. And I definitely would be buying around 2100, as this pattern in this chart with this lack of involvement over the past couple years, it really has a lot of space to push up higher. Keep your eyes open on Ethereum for all of these levels displayed on the chart. Current neckline is at $2,700. First resistance just above $3,000. Into Solana. Now, Solana, a little bit of a different story here. We see that Solana has tried to get up above this inclining trend line and did so quite well during the month of May into June, but then has since started coming back down underneath this inclining trend line that originates over here from January of 2024, strung along to the very next pivot low and all the way across. And you see how price has really interacted well with this area and this trend line, especially coming up, getting rejected, moving back above. Notice how that area is support. It broke support. Now we're coming into resistance again. So first step for Solana, get above the trend line, confirm above the trend line. And then the next resistance is going to be at 187. And then the next area is going to be all the way up here at 225. So a break of this trend line and confirmation will give a lot of room to run on Solana. All right, guys. Again, that wraps up Trading the Close. My name is Drew Dosek. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Look forward to bringing you guys some more info tomorrow. Until then, have a great day, guys. And also give a shout out to Vince, one of our viewers that came in the office today. Very cool to see and meet him. Y'all have a great one. Take